Okay, this is lower back stretch that I'm retaking. I broadcasted on the 22nd of September. However, there was a little bit of internet issue, so like last 5 minutes or something that kind of froze and disappeared. So I'm remaking it. I'm repeating a history. I had a lower back bulge disc about 10 years ago. I had a bad injury. So when it was like last few days in Japan and I flew back to Australia, I couldn't walk. I had been taken by ambulance and then had a CT scan. L4-5 got bulged. It was a really unfortunate accident. We visited Aikido dojo and they just used us karatekas like a sandbag without introducing us to rolls and takes, and I've never done judo or anything like that in my childhood, so I didn't know how to fall, and they just threw us like sandbag, and being small and completely and also flexible, over twisted myself, and then that was it. Unfortunate accident, but you learn a lot. This is my injury diary, not just my lower bulge disc injury, but or sometimes for my students. So that whatever I learn about part of my body, I take the notes and keep the knowledge that I learned. And also particularly those injury affects you emotionally as well. So I wrote lots of diaries about how I was withdrawn symptoms from not be able to train as much as you normally can, or sometimes you go through all sorts of weird emotions that's not necessarily it's a normal feeling. It's the chemical relaxation in your body because you've withdrawn, so you go through a lot of different things. So I was just monitoring myself so that whatever the injury or whatever the things happens to my life next, I've already experienced, so I can learn from it and then do it easier, and I highly recommend that to you. Anyhow, so back injury. Most of the back injury occurs by, even if I did get thrown it, etc. But obviously, I feel like I didn't have enough strength in the core, often overloading of over long hours of sitting. Sometimes even if you don't have a strong core and then you sit long time and you suddenly have a bad sneeze, that can also bulge your disc, unfortunately. And the disc itself, so it's does it show? Yeah, in between vertebrae, sitting like this, and 1/3 of the inner layer of the disc has no nerve. So for many hours, you are not even realizing you might be actually tearing your disc up until the time that the disc started to just bulge way too much and start touch your sciatica nerve, and that could the tear could be anywhere in your disc, and then it can go through shooting through around here, or sometimes you feel it in here. It really depends on part of the nerve it's touching. You don't know, and CT scan or even MRI won't show often how it's torn and how it's touching. So it is kind of a mystery, and of course resting and walking in an easy pace will make it better. But what you can actually do, I learned, is the McKenzie Method. So, for example, most of the time, unless you're a contortionist and doing all sorts of, back bends and everything, you don't hardly push the disc that way. Yeah, as I said, if you're doing a lot of back bend, bridge, spinning backwards, etc., that's exception to the rule because you're like top athletes or whatever you're doing, and that can put in that way. But most of the back injury is happening in this posture. So it's pushing that way, and then we often cross our legs. Yeah, we all have a bit of a body habit, strong leg, etc. So your hip is slightly tilted. So your disc is pushed on one side, whatever the angle that needs to be, if you really want to know, you should really go to the specialist of McKenzie specialist. There are around, especially one in Melbourne. I know, so if you need to see somebody in Melbourne, I can recommend someone. However, I've sent a lot of my students and my families with lower back issues in the last 10 years. So I kind of know how to generalize what to do for the lower back. Okay, so first of all, I would like you to test your back mobility. Okay, so if things are painful, just ease off, but just want you to make sure you are relaxed, and then I want you to do the forward bend and feel how much mobility you've got. And then I want you to do the back extension and check how much you can see. And then I want you to go in between, like somewhere you're going to hold it firmly. Then test your mobility on, probably from the camera, it's not quite capturing very well, but just move a hip, left and right. Sorry, I can't really show you, or maybe I can show you if I move this. Yeah, that's better capture. Okay, here, so I'm standing right in the middle, and I'm firmly holding myself, and then move one side to the other side. Okay, right now I don't really see much of a difference, but you may feel one side very, very obviously not moving. Okay, now first of all, I want you to do this banana exercise on the floor. So you're going to lie down on the ground, okay? Move them. And then find your shoulders are, okay? Fit just as easy as you feel, okay? Then bring the hands underneath the shoulder, breathing in, and push yourself up till the level your hip does not go above the ground. So I don't want you to go like this, because then you are like completely off the ground. It's to the level that your hip joints are still touching the ground. Okay. So here, breathing in, up, 2, 3, 4, 5, let go. If you're really like, oh, I can't go much, then you bring the hands a little bit more forward. 2, 3, 4, 5, in, out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let it go. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, let it go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, it's quite boring, but you have to do it repeatedly. And down. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4. You probably noticed I started off like this and I went this, etc. You'll notice your mobility change. It is absolutely normal if you actually have a sciatic problem. You will feel that buzz when you are doing this. But it should go away when you are not giving a pressure there. Okay. Also, I want you to go a little bit higher. So bring the hands, this is your shoulder. Bring it really forward and then just release the top part of the lumbar, top part of the spine. And here. And then go back to where you started. Hold it there, breathe a few times. You can tighten your butt cheek a bit. Release. Release. And just relax. Then bend your knees. And come up slowly. And I want you to check the change in your mobility. So first, go down. And back. And then side to side. Okay, now if you have sciatic nerve running on this side, most likely your tear will be on this side, whether exactly this side or a little bit angled, or maybe like starting like this and tearing that way. That we can't see. But generally speaking, yes, disc is pushed a little bit to this side. So you want to push the disc back into this side. So we're gonna, so it doesn't matter where it is, higher or lower. If it is running on this side, whatever, then you're gonna push your hip this way, so you encourage this to go back. So in that case, go back to this position, okay? And then elbow right under the shoulder, yeah? Then make sure that this is straight line first, okay? And then elbow on the shoulder. Then anchor with your foot, and if it's on this side, you're gonna push the disc to that way, so you're gonna go like that. So it's a little bit of bend. Yeah, bend shape. So like a crescent move. Okay, so this is straight, this is that crescent move. And then hands on the where the elbows are. Then breathe in. Depending on the angle of your tear, you may need to move your hands even more like this. How do you find that? Okay, if it's really like a fresh bulge disc, you just go to the one it just gives the least pain. If it has been like a recurrence, or you kind of feel like I've had this before, I don't have the sciatic, but it just feels a little bit tight, then you can kind of find it in the angle that gives you a little bit of buzz at the top. So from here, this may be enough for you, this may be perfect angle, or you may also need to put your hip even further out and do this. That you can only find yourself out, but if you've never done this kind of thing before, then just tiny bit out first to be safe. As I said, it's no point lifting a hip, so you have to, if it can't lift further, it's too much work, then bring your hands forward. And this could be a perfect angle for, depending on which disc, could be L3, then it's a little bit higher. If we're elbow 5, it is a little bit more deeper. Yeah. You do need arm strength to, because it's ideally speaking, you should do about 10 to 12 times in one go, and 2-3 times a day, particularly at the initial period. You can ask your family to gently put the weight around here. If your hip is coming off the ground all the time. And then bring it back, roll the hip to the straight line for the last time. And then bring the hip back. And roll, and come back. Okay. This also will help you to even out the length of your feet, because if one is tight, you often the source is really, really tight in one side, so this will actually help to stretch the tight side. Okay, let's see if mobility has improved. If actually your mobility decreased, then that was the wrong exercise for you to do. So usually speaking, the center straight one doesn't give any harm to either side of the bulge disc. But finding the right angle can be tricky, and if that exercise made the mobility worse, then just keep doing the straight one. And then if you, while I was suffering the bulge disc, obviously you couldn't go down to the floor at work, or there's some places you couldn't just go down straight in, then this is the alternative, pushing the sacrum, or hands on the sacrum, breathing in, and then and coming back. So inhale. And a little bit higher with the hands. You also release the tension in your gut system as well. Etc. So you do it exactly the same amount as the floor, 10 to 12 times. That can suffice. And if you want to do the banana shape or crescent moon shape, then exactly the same. You put your hips a little bit aside and then do this backward bend. As I said, if the side kind of runs while you're doing exercise, that's fine, as long as they disappear when you stand up. Because that's the time you're kind of pushing the disc back in, and yes, it may touch the nerve. If it's excruciating pain, please don't do it, yeah? But if it's a little bit of nerves, that's absolutely, actually, often is a good sign. Also, this stimulation of the digestive, because back pain can be caused by pregnancy, because it's giving a bladder pressure, or the pressure to the back, and bladder is also being pressed, and all the nerve is like, ew. But also you can, if your digestive system is inflamed and they're not happy, that can also give back pain. So this kind of exercise will also give a bit of stimulation to your gut system, and that can help you relieve the pain better. Also, I highly recommend to look up inflammatory food and anti-inflammatory food. So avoid, while you're having this kind of nerve pain, I avoided list of the food that I found on the internet that is like basically refined sugar, even if you are not celiac, but wheat and that kind of thing is known as inflammatory thing. Yeah, and then anti-inflammatory foods are like pineapples and that kind of thing. You can look it up and then be safer side. Now, also, if you feel quite deep on this side, another exercise you can do is to use the wall to give a bit deeper stretch. This is often done not at the very initial stage when you are, the injury is too fresh. You may want to avoid that, because this is a lot more deeper stretch to the side. So you're going to completely side, and then if this is the one running, okay, if it's this side, then you go to this side. Get it? Because you want to push the disc back in. So here, you can start with this, and then that. Then you move a little bit away, and push. You do it only 3 times first. 2, 3. And see if the mobility is actually better. It may not. Then this could be just a little bit wrong angle of the tear. In that case, you can try with like 1 foot forward and then going that way, 1 foot behind, and going that way. You test that. Let's just try. For me, this straight one actually made my mobility worse, so I'm going to try with this one. And then see is better or worse. And you can also test the other way. So 1 foot back instead, and then okay, so for me the last one was the best in terms of standing. So I will stick to this and then do the 10 times if I can't afford to go down to the floor. Or if this one worked better for you, then go for it. Yeah. Another thing I want you to know is that even if you had this injury like 10 years ago, and then you're finding it similar nerve things again, it may not be the exactly same tear. The cause of, you might be, it could be the heavy lift you did instead of like long sitting. It's a combination thing, so the push of the angle of the disc may be different. So you may feel it from this to this, and sometimes you have to change the exercise. That's what I was told when I was seeing my McKenzie physio. So it's a bit of trials and error, but when you find the one that really works for you. It really is the savior, because you can self-manage your lower back. Also, you can actually really improve your mobility. Another thing is, you may not have a sciatica pain when you have a bulged disc. Body's a funny thing, you actually stop feeling the pain, but you will figure this out by losing a mobility. So if you don't have the same, particularly this, if the lower back is not happy, this movement becomes very, very unhappy. Yeah? So you can really tell that your disc is not in a happy place if your hip is not really moving to your maximum capacity. You can do normal stretching, it could be the hip joints, etc. That this, with the lower back's lumbar stretch, shouldn't give you any harm. Another last thing I would like you to do is to just give a bit of gut system stimulation, so that will ease your inflammation in your gut. So first I want you to find the belly button, and then just about 3 centimeters away, so small intestine, just to give a bit of stimulation. So in a donut shape, I suppose. And you might find, for me, this part was quite tight, so I hope you only have like a small spot of tightness, not entirely tight. But anyway, it could be breathing in and press. And push the tummy against your hand and hold it. And that could give you a really, really sharp pain, especially if you have a bit of constipation or that or something. And hopefully the tightness went away. You can just test again. Then moving bigger, so it's a larger intestine area. This is my pubic bone. And find the area if there is a bit of stuck. For me, maybe here, breathing in, and press it down more into the diaphragm area, and bend yourself down, and it gives you quite a sharp pain actually. And you can do this if the stand is, I was coming close to the camera, but you can do this in the bed, before you go to bed, even breathe. And it often goes away. If it's difficult to figure it out or do it standing, you can just lie down and do exactly the same test. Breathing in, press down, try to go against with your tummy, release, against, release, keeping the pressure downwards, and breathe, resist, and move the spot left and right. So your microvilla can perform at its best. And then you just release the diaphragm. So this is the rib cage, the line of your rib cage. Pull it apart, pull it apart. This is the hip joint. Put your finger in, lift your knee up. This could be very, very painful if you have tight sores. In that case, you just keep pushing it. Just lift it up so fingers can go deeper and drop. The other side. Push your knee forward. Assist with the other hand. Dig, 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 and drop. And another one is the pubic bone. So it's about pelvic floor. Particularly if you have like a sciatica issue, your body is always on fire and it's just protecting yourself. So this part can get really, really tight. So I want you to release that. And there's a pubic synthesis in between the pubic bones. You can just gently stimulate it so that it's not like shrunk. You go to the side, so just closer to the base of your leg. Happy tummy is soft. Even if you have like six packs and it's just lean, it shouldn't be tight. It should, look, all the muscle should be always supple, even if you're muscular. Another test of the sciatica is a good indication is that when you go down and then bring it up, and it may not be possible to go much further than whatever. So you can compare with one side and the other side, and when it's sciatica is running, even if you don't feel the pain, it's just like it stops. There's a distinctive difference in left and right. And in that case, your disc is not quite in a middle spot. That could be your habitual posture. So this kind of exercise, doing this regularly, it will help to stabilize your disc in a middle place, so that you can, particularly if you're doing like splits and stuff, one might be really, really like soft and the other might not be. If the disc is not in a middle place, you'll find a distinctive difference in left and right. So this is McKenzie exercise is a very effective, beneficial stretching method that I use all the time, and I hope that will help you too.